The investigation is sitting up here to the front. I have read every line, every transcript, looked at every photograph. I have reread all of the transcripts. I have noted what our citizens and complainants have alleged against our employees, and then went back and looked at that evidence. It is clear from the 32 witnesses interviewed that some of our officers entered into the Rainbow Lounge in a manner that was perceived as aggressive, rude, and unprofessional. It is also clear that although our officers did not violate the current bar check policy that was in existence on June 28, 2009, they violated the trust of the GLBT community. 7 officers and 1 sergeant of the Fort Worth Police Department were investigated. Of the 8 police employees investigated, 3 were found to have violated policies and will receive formal disciplinary action, including the sergeant who was in charge of the operation. You ask any employee that works anywhere in law enforcement, when you have permanent unpaid suspensions that stay in your file for the rest of your career and they never go away, that's pretty significant discipline.
If one has talked to a number of the 32 witnesses, what is clear from their statements is this: the police and the TABC officers were aggressive. They did, in fact, according to these witnesses, use excessive force, and they did instill fear in those patrons. And for what reason? There is none. And for that, whether it be a gay bar or a straight bar or any kind of bar, 5 days suspension is wholly inadequate for what happened.
And Randy, what's your reaction overall to the 5 days discipline, 5 days suspension?
That's a joke. That's my honest words. That's a joke. That's a slap on the hand. If you were there that night, and if you'd have seen how the Fort Worth Police and the TBC entered, you would have seen excessive force just by the way they entered. You don't enter a bar and knock drinks out of people's hands if you're not moving excessive.
Some other news in the meantime. Fort Worth Police Department making some changes after a heavily criticized raid at a gay bar earlier this year. Today, the department announced 3 officers have now been suspended. The department is changing its rules for inspecting bars, and police promise to improve communications with the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community. CBS 11's Joel Thomas is live for us at Fort Worth City Hall. Joel, how's the community accepting news of all these changes?
Well, they're getting mixed results. In fact, some people think that there should have been harsher punishments. Now, just minutes ago, city staff released this for the public to see. This is not the report on the Rainbow Lounge raid. That report is so massive that this is just the summary. But it's what's summarized here that caused the police chief to suspend 3 officers.
I have to base those decisions on specific facts that can be proved by witness statement, corroborated with officer statements, and that's what I did in this investigation.
And that investigation generated a massive 1,000-page report. It found 2 officers failed to file a report on the nightclub inspection, leaving the police chief clueless about what had happened when protests began. The report says one of the officers improperly released an arrested person because the suspect's friend is a police department employee. And it cited a sergeant for failing to properly supervise the entire operation. The total punishment, 1 day suspension each for the sergeant and officer, 3 days suspension for the officer who improperly released a suspect.
I think that the community is on a whole, is shocked by the disciplinary action. I would feel they thought it was going to be a lot more severe.
Fairness Fort Worth is calling for an independent investigation. But Chief Halstead said the rules about bar inspections, as they were written at that time, left him few alternatives.
I don't think you can understand how frustrating it is to not have teeth within that area, but we do now, and it's a safer policy for us doing a difficult job.
And the police department does have new rules now for bar inspections, and the chief says if those rules had been in place at the time, he might have had the option to fire those officers. Reporting live, Joel Thomas, CBS 11 News.